About Teresa Hall? All right, we may have to give that award at the end of the presentation. So we're actually going to start near time. How you folks doing? Getting ready? You're at the home stretch here, right? Have you had a good time?
Yeah.
Have you learned a lot? Are you tired? Well, we've had a lot of choice, a lot of non-stop activity, and I hope you've been inspired and informed, and you'll take that home. One thing I wanted to mention is a couple of days ago was 9/11. And the NYAPRS conference in 2001 was all set up to happen, and it was set up to happen, I think it was September 12th, 13th, 12th. And then this terrible tragedy happened, and we didn't know what to do, whether to hold the conference or not. And we got on the phone and we said, if it was a self-help meeting, we would have canceled it. And this was a time for people to support each other. So we kept it open. And 300 people came from upstate New York. And hardly anybody could come from downstate New York because all the roads were closed. So we held a conference here for 300 people, and it was a very solemn, sacred almost affair. I remember being in my room and watching that building come down. It was just traumatizing. And then we figured out, what are we going to do with the other 300? They couldn't be there. So we asked the agencies that had paid the money if we could hold the conference and keep that money and invite anybody. And so we held a second NYAPRS conference in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Marriott. And we had an internet, we really tried to cover the gamut of race and diversity and religion. So we had an imam, and we had Chaco was there in the Indian garb, and Isaac Brown was there in the Jewish garb, and we just really gave a serious moment of prayer. So I would ask you, actually, and let me show you this. This is what we had signed then. NYAPRS Remembers 2000, Remembers 911. And people signed the book, and you'll see the signatures and incredible statements. That's okay, we don't need that spotlight. Thank you. Let go of that spotlight, can you? But anyway, this is a very incredible book. Marguerite Gale, who is heading up the multicultural exhibition, showed it to me last night, and people over the years have still been signing it. We're going to leave it in the back, and you can sign it on your way out if you'd like to, and look at what people have written there. But I would like to ask you to maybe take 30 seconds of silence in memory of the people that died that day, and all the troops really have died since. Thank you. So, Marguerite Gale, will you stand up? Look in the back there. This is Marguerite Gale's first year of hosting the multicultural exhibit. If you haven't seen it is an extraordinary collection of garb and items from across the diversity of mankind. It's just a beautiful event. And this is her first year doing it. Magali Polo, who did it for 16 or 18 years, no longer can do it. So Marguerite, you've done a fabulous job. You've loaded that big van, you've loaded everything up, and we thank you so much. Thank you. So, now the fun. So, how many people here would say New York is the center of the universe? You know that drawing from the New Yorker where they show a map of the country and it's New York City, nothing, and LA? So we just stopped right at New York City. But New York really is special, and it's something that really is a model to the country. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I don't know where they put the plaque, so I'm going to see a plaque or two. Back here, forgive me for a second, I'm doing magic here.
They're in the podium.
Okay. All right, we're going to get them. Thank you, Chaplain. Everything is planned exactly. Have you noticed? Everything in order. So it looks like they still don't have all the award winners, awardees. So we should be able to. We're just voting out what we're going to do because they're all ready to reach out to the end of it. So we should get that. I would do this next. All right. So the second award, actually the first award, we're very pleased to give to a hero of NYAPRS, someone who we want you to hear his story and his contributions. And Carla Rabinowitz, our outgoing co-president, is going to present this award.
So this presentation is to Mark Greenberg. He has really been at the forefront of the campaign to create housing and work for the homelessness. He's a faith leader. When we were trying to get money from Cuomo, he got 288 faith leaders to sign on to a letter saying that housing is a moral imperative. When we had a 600-person housing forum a year and a half ago in New York City, which attracted a lot of people, he had an array of like 20 faith leaders from everywhere, and the politicians were very impressed. And he goes all in to help people who are homeless, to help for housing, and he's just an amazing person and very well respected in the faith community in New York City. So.
The award is the Jason Brody Faith and Fellowship Award, perfectly named in heartfelt recognition, Mark, of your extraordinary kindness, caring, and the devotion you have shared with our mental health community. Congratulations.
Thank you all. I have my notes in my phone, so I'm not texting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to say a little bit about the work that we do, so you have an idea. I'm the director of the Interfaith Assembly on Homelessness and Housing. We've been around about 30 years. We started out wanting to be a interfaith witness to the crisis of homelessness. So we go to places where homelessness was visible, to shelters and welfare hotels and drop-in centers and soup kitchens, and we basically say, no matter what our faith is this what God has asked us to do as a society? And then we decided to go down to City Hall when the city is deciding where to spend its money, and we would spend a night, overnight, once a year in City Hall Park. We did this in 1988, something extraordinary happened. We started with about 100 people ready to spend the night, and then we had this torrential rainstorm, and in the morning there were 12 of us left. And of the 12, 6 of us were homeless. And then met with some city council members, the best city council members, including Ruth Messenger and Abe Gurger, some of the real heroes. And we said, what should we know about the budget? And they told us, well, what they said was, to those of us who were homeless, but you know what? We're the 8 members of the council that really care about homelessness. What you need to do is talk to the other members of the council who didn't come to this meeting. So the folks said, well, we want to go back into the park. We want to spend the whole budget, the budget, time when the budget's being finalized in the park and get to know the other members. And we said that could be 30 days out of the street. They said, look, some of us already live out of the street, but we were just told we could make a difference. They moved into the park. They were in the park for 200 days. 200 days. They called themselves Homeward Bound Community Services. They were there to help other homeless people. They went to city council every day, listening to the deliberations. They greeted Mayor Koch every morning, which really got under his skin. And ultimately, they were a great news story for the City Hall press corps. They could just come out and cover the story. And I believe they really changed the way we as a society view homeless people, because they were there to help themselves and help others. They were saying, don't give us a handout, just help us help ourselves. Give us an opportunity to work so we can earn enough to pay for housing. And we then decided that if we wanted to be effective as advocates, they needed to tell their story. Because homelessness is not just about numbers, not just about budgets, it's about people. And until we realize that each of us is a child of God, then we're not going to make changes. And so we then developed a way to help them, to help themselves. We developed support groups, and we've now graduated over 1,200 people from these support groups for domestic violence survivors and homeless veterans and homeless youth and ex-offenders. And many of them are now part of our organization. Many of them are now helping to run these programs. But on the other hand, of course, we decided that at the basis of every faith tradition is the call to stand with those who are struggling. No matter what the tradition is, that's what we're being called to do. And when we heard about the need for supportive housing in New York State, we decided we would call our friends and colleagues and say, can you join us in calling on the governor and the mayor to produce 30,000 units of supportive housing? And as Carla said, we gathered 284 signatures from around the state, from every tradition you can think of, and they signed that letter, and we presented it to the governor and the mayor. And as you know, the governor and the mayor in November committed to producing 15,000 units of supportive housing over the next 15 years. And then in January, the governor said, well, I'm going to produce 20,000 units over the next 15 years. And then, as we know, the state, in the budget, put $2 billion for supportive and affordable housing over the next 5 years. But required was a letter, an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between the governor and the state, the Senate and the Assembly to release that money. And what they did when they finished the budget was they released a paltry $150 million. Now they tried to tell everybody it was actually $650 million, that included other monies that they already committed, but no one was fooled. The New York Times didn't report 650, they reported 150 million. And then we decided we needed to push the governor further, and then we, and Carla has been a great champion of this, we decided to go and visit the governor's office every Wednesday. I think this last Wednesday was our 9th or 10th Wednesday. And 2 of those Wednesdays, we organized, we invited our faith community to join. And just 2 weeks ago, we presented a letter, another letter, signed by 170 faith leaders, asking the governor to sign up that MOU. Now, interestingly, 2 weeks earlier, when we were out there, the press asked the governor, what about this MOU? And he said, I don't believe it'll be signed this year. I don't think we're going to see this money until next year's budget. He was speaking as if he's someone watching a car drive by. He's the driver of the car. He's not watching it. He's driving it. And then 2 days ago, he announced that he told his budget director to present an MOU to the Assembly and the Senate to be signed for $2 billion. So, we're almost there. We're on the 90-yard line. We got the governor and the mayor to commit. We got the state legislature to put the money in. And now we've got the governor signing the MOU. So we're almost there. But we're not finished. We're not finished, and we cannot take our eye off the ball, because these people need to know that we're watching them. But we also know that they know that God is watching them. No matter what our faith tradition, we know that we're called to be citizens and to have our society reflect our values. And I just want to remind us of 2 scriptures that I like. You know, one, as we know, is Matthew 25, when Jesus of Nazareth says, when you see someone who's hungry or homeless or in prison and you serve them, you're serving me. Right? And some of you may not know, but about 15 years ago, geneticists determined that we're all descendants from one woman. We are all actually one family. We are all one family. So when you see someone, that's your family. How can we turn our back on our family? And the other scripture that's probably my favorite is Isaiah 58. When God says, the fasting that I wish, what pleases me is not to humble yourself, to lie in sackcloth and ashes, but to release those that are bound unjustly. It's to feed those who are hungry. Take the homeless poor into your home. And when you do that, your wounds will be quickly healed. The sun will break through like the dawn. And you'll be called Restorer of the Breach and the Repair of Ruined Houses. And let's work together to restore the breach and repair those ruined houses and build housing for everyone in our state who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you for your service and for the service, too. Okay, I'm going to call up Jeff McQueen and Teresa Hall. Carla has an announcement, and when Carla speaks, everybody listens.
So the New York City buses, and I'm sorry for everybody who's not a New York City bus person to take your time. The New York City buses are leaving at 2 sharp. There's a place to check out your luggage in the lobby, so check it out before 2 o'clock. And we have box lunches that we can take, so don't sit and eat lunch, check out, let everybody be out there at 2 so we don't leave anybody behind.
Thank you, Carla. So we're now going to present the Quincy Boykin Award. Quincy Boykin was a great leader in New York City. He was the first consumer affairs director who really was given lots of input by the city of New York. He was a great, good, big man, very well respected, very kind, and he goes back, he was friends with Howie the Harp, and we created an award, the Quincy Boykin Memorial Award, in heartfelt recognition of someone's inspiring achievements to promote the empowerment, integration, and full inclusion across race and culture, ethnicity, and gender preference, full inclusion of people with psychiatric disabilities. And here our Cultural Competence Committee leaders are going to give this award to Chaplain Effect.
Good afternoon, everyone. What an honor. One, to be in your presence, but foremost, to be under your care. And when I met you, that's what I was, under your care. And through you, and what you represent, and all that you give so freely, not only have I grown as a person, but I understand now how to help to grow others. And that it's my responsibility to continue to grow. May God continue to bless you, order your steps, and may you continue to be a light unto the lost, like you were to.
So just briefly, when I first met you, it was at the NYAPRS convention. I wasn't doing cultural competence workshops and trainings at that time. You inspired me to put one on after we had a discussion over the chessboard. So, very important time today. Right. But I think what inspires me most about this award for you is that not at any particular time did I ever feel you were here. You always made me feel like we were eye to eye. Even though your accomplishments were tremendous. Right, like you were outgrowing yourself, but yet you always spoke to me eye to eye, and it makes me understand that as I grow, to make sure I don't outgrow myself, and my mutuality stays the same as everyone else, right? Because the confidence of our culture is real, right? And you gave me that, so thank you very much. Congratulations.
Chaco and I are not only colleagues, but we're brothers, we're friends, and it's just so special for me to be part of this moment. And many of you know his accomplishments, but what maybe some of you might not know is that Chaco is also a wonderful husband, a fantastic father, and just a great friend. And really quick, because I know we gotta move on, I just wanted to tell you that I always look at Chaco, and he's so humble. I agree with you, Jeff. I say, Chaco, do you realize that you are a national figure, man? And he looks at me like, you know, like, I don't know what you're talking about. But Chaco, thank you for what you do, brother, and I love you, man. Thank you.
so to speak, on the panel. So I'm trying to pull it together. But yeah, so this community offered me something that I never thought I'd have. So when every August, September, I go through a process where I would really start to feel unsafe in the world. I was always around having to go to this place where other kids were, people were trying to control my mind and tell me who I was, when I know in my heart that I wasn't those things. I didn't have any place to go to talk about. Fast forward, that was always in the back of my mind. Every fall, it was always something like clockwork. It's coming to respect. And then I would find out, years later, as I continued to do the advocacy work we were doing and peer support work we were doing, that there was this group of people that were getting on buses from Rochester, New York, going to Albany. So we were just making some stuff happen down in the Rock in Rochester. So we were changing what we thought we needed to change, but we were up against some things that we couldn't change locally. We needed to change them at the statewide level, and some of them are nationally. And there were people actually doing this. And, this dude in a big, this big tall dude in a green suit, it wasn't Harvey, by the way. He didn't wear any green suit. It was one of our local advocates, can I talk to you? I'm talking to Howard, dude. So anyway, so he said, you can come to Albany and advocate. I said, okay, so we'll check that out. And some people like Joe Nobling and others said to me, yeah, that's a good thing. They kind of vouched for Harvey and for NYAPRS, and because I was a little suspicious of anybody that was kind of advocating for certain policies at that time. I didn't really think that I honestly didn't think that anything that we really needed to get done could get done. I was actually hopeless about it. But they're all getting on bus, I get to see this place. They say, come to this conference, and come to this conference. The next thing you know, I'm looking forward to something every fall. And I come to, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, showing up at a conference that I didn't think I would feel the kind of energy and hope and inspiration that I got to go back and, do it again, in the local town, really continue to, offer the same message where people weren't getting a chance to come. So I've been raised by this community. Some of you know me since I was a teenager. My hair was down to here, and now it's a little shorter, but just to cover up the gray. But the idea that Harvey's put up with me in so many ways, I've probably given more difficulty than I've gotten out of it. You know what I'm saying? So people have put up with more of me, in that way. So because I said outside of it was the Neville, Laura Prescott, I was yelling to Laura Prescott. She's trying to come and do a keynote, and I'm holding her hostage outside, yelling about how upset I am about nobody's getting this culture thing, and everybody's making me want to be like them, and master narrative, and all of this stuff, And I just have a story just like everybody else, and I didn't make there's no room for my story. So I don't have a lot of time, but I have one thing to tell you. Your power is in your difference. Amen. It's in your difference. That's where your power is. That became the theme of our cultural conference ever since. And so I'm so grateful to Harvey and NYAPRS to embracing this priority. So I can talk a lot about it, so I don't want to take all the time from the panelists here. Thanks for being here, for me, my family. We're all very good.
I just want to say that I remember Chappie with the long hair and these bright eyes in the back when I had the regional forum, and I knew he was special. And then I knew that because maybe 8, 9, 10 months later, one of ours had been set on fire in Western New York, and Chapu held an event, and his parents were there, and it was pouring in the rain, and he stood there, we stood there. That was his devotion then. Last thing, he reminds me of President Obama, because since he's been in this job, his hair has turned red. Okay, we're going to give more time to this panel and push everything back a little bit. So again, this panel is about what New York is, how New York has given an origin to these wonderful leaders and how they've taken their stories, they've gone through a process that they'll share, and they've brought their contributions nationally to people around the country, and they've helped New York be an example, but they'll also tell us a little bit about, we're kind of full of ourselves, we think like we're the head of everything, they know better, and they'll tell us about it. So let's start with, and if you would please introduce yourselves. Let's start with Stephanie Orlando.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Orlando, and I'm the founder and the executive director of Youth Power. I've also served on the National Council on Disability, which is a presidential appointment. I was appointed by President Obama, and I went through a Senate confirmation for that appointment as well.
Hi, I'm Laverne Miller. I'm a senior project associate with Policy Research Incorporated up in Delmar, New York, right after Albany.
Hi there, Joe Moroni. I work at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, but actually I live in Portland, Oregon, so I cover you full time.
Hi, my name is Chaku Mathai. I'm with the STAR Center, which is based out of Menominee in Arlington, Virginia. However, I live also, like Joe, in Rochester, New York.
Tell us please about your journey. Tell us please about your stories from New York to your national role, and any comments you have about where New York sits in that paradigm.
Alright, so, obviously you start with the personal. Sorry for the feedback. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's always good to keep my personal trait. So, yeah, I started as a peer leader when I was, I started in Harrisburg. 15, I actually met Chuck Hu, I think, when I was like 17. He did have long hair then. So yeah, I started as a young leader. I struggled with severe depression and anxiety. I actually was agoraphobic and afraid to leave my house for many years, and really still struggle a lot with depression and anxiety. Very high functioning, but still struggling nonetheless. And I start with that just because Laverne and I were just talking, and I want to stress that with the national work that we do, that we're still peers. Like, sometimes this work is very intimidating. When you go into the White House and you're surrounded by a lot of lawyers and things. I was a high school dropout. I dropped out on my 16th birthday. Got my high school equivalency diploma. Day after my 17th birthday, I took my GED. First day I legally could. I went through to be a peer leader. I was trained, and then started training other peers, and really worked in that peer field my whole career. I'm 35 now. I built Youth Power with my peers, with the movement. That's why I say I'm a founder, because I really, even though I'm one consistent person that's been really working at it full time the whole time, it really was a movement effort, and a lot of other young people are involved. And throughout that process, you have to keep in mind your own wellness and your own identity of who you are. I think you spoke to that, of like how your difference in your identity, and sometimes this work can be really intimidating, and it's really important to kind of like be brave and get out there. So as I was transitioning from that young leader to young adult leader to just established leader, I think that all of that was really building on the community and the people that were around me, and really looking to others for support, because one of the things that was really hard to transition in was just for a presidential appointment, you have to go through a lot of background checks and FBI investigation and paperwork and stuff like that. And that's one thing I also find in the peer community is a major hurdle for us. We get even governor appointments and on the Behavioral Services Council as well. And I find people can't go through the process of the paperwork really easily. It just is really intimidating. Even getting your resume and all of that together is a major barrier. And I'm spending time talking about this because there's not enough of us on a national level. And there are a lot of people I find are telling me that they find it intimidating, it's a barrier, and we need strong voices. And it's something that, with support you can get through, and it's good to keep track of everything that you're doing so that when it does come time for some of these opportunities, you have it all together. And it's not as overwhelming then when you go to apply or go through these background checks or these process, like the Senate confirmation, having my resume out to the U.S. Senate, and having to do an interview with them. That's intimidating. But it's something that you can do. They wanted to talk to me about things I was passionate about, so I ended up talking to them about restraint and seclusion. Something I do very well and can easily talk about. So, and that was great. That's why I got appointed. They wanted somebody that was going to go talk about restraint and seclusion. So that was a big deal for Senator Harkin at the time, and that was his committee. So that was that. And so just getting out there, and in terms of the eye-opening thing once it got to that level, that how New York stacks up, yeah, we institutionalize a lot of people here. A lot of people. We like to think, we have great services, we have stuff. We lack a lot of people. Just do. A lot of other states just don't do that. We get so worried about losing services if we move away from these institutional settings. And when you travel and you see, there's just so much more holistic ways of approaching things. There's so many more community-based ways, faith-based ways. There's just so much you learn from other cultures and other ways of doing things. We think we're so liberal and open-minded here, and it's just not that true when you get out there and you see places. In my opinion, anyway, I've just really come to realize that. I went to Berkeley, which is the home of the independent living movement in the disability world, and just to see what universal accessibility really looks like, that's eye-opening. You have push buttons for elevators that are kick start, so you can just drag your wheelchair right into it, and you can there are no stairs, there's just ramps that go up. And I mean, that's a physical space, but they also had things for if you couldn't do fluorescent lights and sense sensitivity and chemical sensitivity and all sorts of things. Being in the disability community and learning about all of that stuff, that's another thing that's been a big part of my journey, is that I've always been a part of the cross-disability movement, and that's a big thing in the youth movement. And one of my mentors, Dr. Hawkins, she was the staff person for the National Council on Disability, and I was first on there as a youth advisory member, and she recently passed away, and she had told me, she was up here, and she had said to me that our generation was very different from her generation in terms of understanding how psychiatric disabilities fit into the disability community, and understanding self-advocacy for psychiatric disability, and really embracing that, and that wasn't the way it was in her generation. She very much encouraged me, and whenever I would go out there and she would see me do something afterwards, she would be, we're proud of you, telling me that that's what was needed to get out there and to push that envelope, and how great it was to see how well received those messages were from this generation. That cross-disability movement, that we have civil rights, we're part of the civil rights movement, and that it's not society, it's not we who are disabled, it's society that disables us. That is what the disability community talks about, and I'm very proud to be a part of that community. And that's been a huge piece of my life, and I honestly kind of lost my train of thought thinking of Dr. Hawkins, because it really was a major loss here recently, thinking about passing, but being a part of that movement is huge, and just learning about the disability community and going out to Berkeley. And then also I've been able to travel to the Netherlands. And, you know, there, and I'm sure some of you here have been able to do that too, and just to see the peer community internationally and what's out there and how to approach things in a much more human relationship type of way, you know, and just kind of move away from this structure of this rigid, like, you know, things must be delivered in this very institutional type manner. I think that's one of the things New York is really set on, and that when you get out there, you see that that's our culture here in the state. That's not everywhere. So I don't know how I did on time. No, I think, why don't we go to somebody else and you can come back and, I
Yeah, like Stephanie, I think, you know, New York in many ways prepared me. My work here, I was director of the Housing Heart Care Advocacy Center for about 40 years. You know, it substantially prepared me for the work that I do nationally. And I just like to say, you know, it's the work that I do nationally, that we all do, it's really an honor and a privilege to represent our community on a national level, because often if we're not at the table, we're forgotten. And if we're not there pushing the envelope, and I think Chaku and I have spent a part of this morning talking about it, you know, being an agitator, that no one is there to agitate on our behalf or to see things through. Like Stephanie, I'm just going to start a little bit about my story. I'm a former assistant district attorney in New York County, and I think I began to think about another career when I got ill. I mean, it was clear to me that I couldn't, not that I couldn't, that's not in my vocabulary, but that there were other ways in which I could utilize my $40,000 law school career, other than being a prosecutor and putting people away. Because quite frankly, in addition to getting ill, one of the issues was I got tired of putting away people who look like me. And therefore, grace of God go on. And I really felt that, you know, Rikers Island increasingly was becoming a mental hospital, for lack of a better way, and our state prisons were becoming state hospitals. And so, like many of you, I reached a point in my life where I really had to make some really hard decisions. And I think there were decisions I think God puts you in a place, always in a place where one door opens, another door, one door closes, another door opens. And so as I was trying to consider what I was going to do in the next phase of my career, I looked at the New York Times and I saw this advertisement for director of the Housing Heart Care Advocacy Center. And it said, mental health consumers encouraged to apply. And I said, wow, I've never seen an advertisement encouraging somebody with, you know, that kind of experience, my experience, to really apply for a position. So this is fantastic. So long story short, you know, I applied, I got the position, and really spent a lot of time here in New York, both in New York City, New York State, really working on workforce development issues. Because to me, the issue of our community is one of poverty and discrimination. And that unless and until we really fully participate in all aspects of economic life and enjoy all the rights and privileges of being a citizen of this country, then indeed we will always be second-class citizens, and we'll always fight for little crumbs that are left at the table. And I don't know about you, but I don't want crumbs anymore. You know, in fact, I want the pie. I don't want even one slice. I think we deserve a pie. Everybody needs a pie. You know, and so really thinking about the context of developing a peer workforce, what would that look like? And for me, it was really critically important. Up to that point, most states had adopted the Georgia model, which was a 40-hour training. There wasn't an internship component, and there wasn't a component where basically the organization training the peer specialists actually went out and developed jobs. And when I got hired, quite frankly, I was talking to Marguerite. We had two job sites. One was at Mount Sinai Hospital because one of the co-directors had worked there, and transitional services because of our relationship with Marguerite. And there were only two jobs, two internship sites. And so over the term, over the course of a few years, we really had to work really, really hard to dispel all the myths about whether or not people with quote-unquote psychiatric disabilities, whether we could work, whether we were like Humpty Dumpty, that you get in our shells where we were vulnerable, and if you got to work, you could sick again, and all the things that we know are not true. But most importantly, really preparing employers for the fact that if they were going to hire us, that there was some transformative things that need to take place. You cannot want to create an environment where you're providing recovery-oriented services that traumatizes both peer staff as well as the staff, as well as the consumers that you're providing services to. You also need staff that are really committed to recovery, that can see it, taste it, smell it, hear it, and really understand that it's the anticipated result, not a possibility. And that is the expectation. Because I was always saying in the work I did here in New York City that water seeks the lowest level, And the one thing that New York taught me was that never ever seek the lowest level. You got to have a high expectation. And although there are instances where basically you don't accomplish everything you would like to accomplish or that you know needs to be accomplished, you always have to keep your eye on the prize, particularly when you do this kind of work. So what happened was how I got involved nationally, and I'm one of the beliefs, totally in faith, like you got to be in the right place, the right time, or whatever. So someone asked me to do some work down on a federal level around trauma, and really talking about the impact of trauma on our community. And I said, sure. I usually speak to it. My mother grew up I'm the adult child of a mother who grew up in foster care, understands very completely the impact that trauma not only had on her life, but intergenerationally. My life and my siblings, and even our children. So I can really speak authoritatively on that issue, personally. So someone had to see me, what I call testifying. In order to testify, you have to have a story, right? So they said, I got a call about a week, 2 weeks later, and said, we're looking for a consultant to do some work around for these these agencies, these states that got this mental health transformation money. And right now, they're not including people with lived experience, and we really need someone that's going to push the envelope. And we need someone that's going to be assertive, but be able to be build bridges, not to turn the place out, at least initially, but to really, really work hard and to be willing to kind of take those really hard steps and listen to some of those hard things. But most importantly, to continue to push the envelope. And really not let state governments or agencies or other institutions off the hook. Because the reality of the situation, without peers, family, and youth involvement, there will be no transformation. We'll be stuck with the same broken system that we have. So I said, sure, we'll make a little change inside. We'll consult London. I think that was my vacation for the summer. And I went, and it really exposed me to a whole other world of really working with state government, state government, state agencies, state-run organizations. So that was my first exposure to that kind of work. And I can say over the years, increasingly, my work has increasingly involved focus on state systems transformation. And it's not easy work. It's work, but it's work that really, it's where the rubber hits the road. Because you really can't create solutions that are individually based. A lot of the changes that we make are based on individuals, a group of individuals as opposed to looking at the system, the entire systems of care. So I enjoy the work that I do. Often I'm the only woman and the only person of color at the table. And so that's something that I'll let Chaku talk a little bit about what we're trying to do to really ensure that doesn't happen. That we're coming together really as a community of leaders of color to really develop leaders of color, because it's really important. Leadership succession is important. And we have a responsibility to really mentor and support and actually step aside when that day comes for other people to take leadership roles. But not only step aside, but really keep the doors down further so that there are more spots at the table. But anyway, so that's kind of our perspective about leadership. New York, briefly, I think New York has taken a leadership role, and I talk about New York often in the work that I do. Because as soon as people hear me ask for coffee, they know I'm from New York. And one other interesting anecdote: when you live on the East Coast, you only think of the world in North and South. You don't think of the world the coast. you don't think of that big part of the world, which is most of America, which is Middle America. And I can say through the work that I've done, I've really learned about Middle America, and that we have much more in common with Middle America, and I'm sure you agree, than we think from watching TV, whether it's a red state, whether it's a blue state, or whatever. I had the best Vietnamese food I ever had in Oklahoma. And I was like, man, wow. You know, we got Chinatown. But that's just an example. But New York has led the way in many ways in terms of systems advocacy. You know, with organizations like NYAPRS and other coalitions, in terms of really advocating on the systems level for transformation. In many other states, you don't really see that kind of crystallization take place where, you know, all, whether it's consumers, providers, family members, government really come together and really pushing the envelope and having the discussions that were talked about earlier. That kind of collaboration between peers, providers, and other stakeholders in advocacy efforts is something that New York has taken a leadership role in. All the states are going through some process with the Affordable Care Act around Medicaid redesign and other kinds of managed care transitions. Without a doubt, New York has, people with lived experience have really had more of a leadership role in how those states are playing out than other states. And I think part of that is because of the preparation that Harvey and others had really done for the community to make sure that people really understood what was going on, what the implications were, and what was at stake. The other thing is that, briefly, is that, you know, New York by far has more consumer-operated programs than other states. And that's because of New York, I think, New York, because of initially the Reinvestment Act, which created funds for consumer-operated programs. You don't have similar kinds of things that are going on in other states, although other states are now following New York's lead. When you look at Washington State, you look at Oregon, you look at other places around the country, there are really emerging consumer-operated programs that really look to New York for as examples of really how to do it and how to do it well. Let's see. The other thing that New York has really taken a leadership role in, and Joel can speak a little bit about this, is around the whole issue of self-sufficiency in employment. When I work with states around employment programs, I always use New York Works as an example of really how, you know, an entire state has really come on board around really increasing the employment of people with disabilities and really ensuring basically that, you know, people have competitive wages and people are able to live and take care of their families and the like. And so when I work with states, I frequently talk about New York and the great work that New York has done in that area. Finally, New York is the lead and still has the lead in disaster recovery, peer involvement, disaster recovery planning, and implementation. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, other than to know that New York was one of the first states where peers were really trained to do crisis counseling and really to help New York recover. March Liberally Peer Support Initiative, right? And in closing, here's some challenges I see, is that there are other states are far out shining New York when it comes to peers becoming involved in providing services to other peers in criminal justice settings. Whether we're talking about treatment courts, jails, prisons, other types of community supervision, New York has lost some of the momentum that it previously had. And so that's going to be a challenge, and I would really charge New York really to, you know, take ownership of its leadership back again. So I think that's pretty much it. But I think, you know, I want you all to know that, you know, you all have made it possible for all of us to sit up here and sit at the table, and that in all the work that I know that I do, I'm always conscious of that I'm not representing Laverne, I'm representing a large constituency, and I'm just grateful for that opportunity.
Thanks for Harvey kind of intimidated me. He rarely intimidates me, but he did when he set this panel up. It was something to talk about a little bit about your life and the impact you made. You know, at the age of 69, I kind of see myself as scratching and clawing my way to the threshold of mediocrity. I'm not quite sure I made much of an impact. You know, some people like me, some people don't. Well, once I say coffee or,
Yeah.
I was in Iowa once and they said, well, we're kind of like Joe, but someone told me there's no R in Iowa. And I'm the odd man out for a lot of reasons. I don't have, I've had sort of a relaxing personal life, but I'm part of the system. And I usually go through a whole little yin and yang, you know, kind of the disability view of Joe Maroney and the real view, but we don't have the time like that. One of the things, I've had these waxing personal relationships. And then, but now stable relationship for 24 years with Ann, who I called my wife, but she'll never get married again, she said. And so periodically I say, Ann, maybe we should get married, you know, if nothing else, if someone shoots me, you know, for the money. And she says to me, remember, we're living together 24 years, she says, Joe, if I ever did decide to get married again, you'd be one of the finalists. That's what I feel. I'm in New York by birth. I mean, I mentioned New York, just to give you a little bit of sort of my quote-unquote journey, and then a little bit about the kind of views of New York. I grew up, actually I was born in the Italian ghetto of New York City, Arthur Avenue, you know, the Bronx. And I tell people we reversed the American dream. We kept getting poorer, so I moved further to the South Bronx. And I hated growing up. I mean, now I kind of enjoyed it, but I hated it. I hated being poor. I hated it. And I went to school in upstate New York at Des Moines, in Syracuse, a little Jesuit place. And then but I moved to Boston in 71. So I spent most of my adult life in Boston. And then moved out to the West Coast in 98. So along the way, I got a counseling degree in Boston, and at the time, the vocational, what you call Access VR, the vocational rehabilitation system was in the real boom years. They were hiring and stuff. But I didn't particularly want to do that. So I worked as a waiter for a year. You know, you got to work, right? You got to work. Yeah. I worked as a waiter for a year, and I was a typical sort of whiny, guy. And so I worked every day. I'd come home and I'd cry, oh, no, and my wife at the time would say, suck it up, Joe, you know, get the check. And I worked for a year, and I built my little red, my little bow tie and stuff. And I consider my vaguely remember, you know, someone on the yeah. I went to high school with him. And he used to cheat on me in high school. And he was graduating Harvard Law School, and I was waiting. So I said, so I quit that night. I said, enough of this shit. I'll take the job and go here. And what folks probably don't appreciate now, actually nationally, and even with Access VR, because it's kind of seen and Voc Rehab nationally seen as kind of this bureaucratic, high-powered agency. In the early 70s, Voc Rehab was where the action was. DD and mental health. The whole idea, which you talk about empowerment, the whole idea of signing your own service plan happened years in Voc Rehab before it happened in mental health and DD. The whole idea, which seems kind of foolish in some ways, of having money that's dedicated to helping you do stuff, which never was used well, was years ahead of DD and mental health. In a lot of ways, it was really innovative, and because Voc Rehab in general tends to have a lot of people with mental health problems, I got involved with that. And because it was a different time, well, I'll tell you one quick note. I was very pleased with myself. You know, I was in Boston, and I was the manager of an office, but I used to do a lot of mental health stuff. So I spent a day just to keep sort of open to it. I just started just kind of hanging out, talking to people. There was one guy I was playing pool with, this big guy. I'm playing pool and chatting, you know, and one of the clients there. And he said, no, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from New York. He holds back and takes the pool cue. I hate people from New York. That's all right. Forget it. Yeah, forget it. But anyway, because of the different time, we actually had a 6-week training program. We worked together, this is several grants, we worked together with people from Voc Rehab and mental health around New England. They spent 5 weeks in New York and a week. That's actually townhouses. Before there were a lot of clubhouses. real estate. So, in fact, in the first clubhouse in the state, it's totally funded by both Korea. That's also a very different sort of world. Yeah. And that program went for years. I mean, I think it had some impact, at least in terms of, I'm not sure if the system changed, but just by the nature of the time and the years, there were a lot of sort of relatively young people who, for example, the first graduate was a VR counselor who was so impressed by Fountain House. He started a clubhouse. I think that's the Fountain House is the best clubhouse in the country, called Genesis. Which is very strong employment and clubhouse stuff. Anyway, so that was that, and I used to do a lot of training on my own time. It was either both funny and sad. I used to do a lot of work with consumer groups, and they would sort of show me as an oddball, for a step person. I used to do a lot of work in Texas, and I still remember these two things in Texas. One was funny, one was kind of both funny. So I did my little thing, and this one woman who was one of the members of the consumer group comes up to me. She said, because at the time I was actually working at the mental health center, she says, "You're not really an administrator at a mental health center, are you?" And I said, yeah. She said, "I never met an administrator with personality before." And then I was in another one, I'm doing my rants and raves. This woman was clearly, she was kind of really tough. "Joe, are you schizophrenic?" And I said, no. She says, "You sure sound like you're schizophrenic." So that's kind of my oddball kind of world. Then I moved from Massachusetts to be the deputy director of the large mental health center outside of Portland. And part of the idea, I was looking at how you as a rehab expert, but the reality is managed care had just come in. Optum had just come in, so I wanted to kind of argue back. And but I was always interested in employment stuff. So through a variety of ways, we got from 2 people in the employment. I had 2 staff workers. Then we got 28 employment, out of 220 staff, 28 were we were really kind of known for employment. Probably the best residue of that, because the system comes up and down. Actually, Laverne used to work for me, is actually one of the most powerful advocates in Washington State for housing and employment, and brings in a lot of money. She called me a mentor, but she's 20 years younger than me, but she's much more mature. She has patience for this kind of stuff that I don't. So I've been working a lot and consulting. I do a lot of work around sort of program administration research. I work a lot on, we have this interesting project that's not totally focused on mental health, but it's going to have a real impact. In 2 states, we're working with SSDI recipients, and the whole idea is to get VR more effective in terms of working with them. Real jobs, above minimum wage. And 2 parts of the design, in my mind, is that part of the design. One part of the design is at the time of application, you get a low career counselor, a financial educator, and a job work the right time they apply. The second part is even more amazing. This is all rehab. From the time they walk in the door to the time they get a plan with is 30 days. And that's down from 4.5 months. So just building some momentum on that. We also have a lot of stuff about how you engage people. So just the pace of moving people along. But systems are just, there's a quote I sometimes use in training. It says, the length of a minute of time depends on what side of the bed the door you're on. And I think we're way too patient in both systems and both rehab and mental health, even the NYAPRS probably. In terms of what we think is reasonable time to work with people, we're really talking about people's lives, not just lengthening. In terms of some of the system stuff, and then I'll mention sort of New York, in terms of some of the system stuff, particularly Washington I work with, I think 2 things particularly. I've helped them with this, sort of work with this big Medicaid waiver that specifically improves employment, number 1. Also, I worked with them a little bit. They, like you guys, have this, I forget what it stands for, the DSR, DSR. And one of the things I told them to avoid is my sense, even though I'm not there, I hear, I keep up with it, that in New York State, that's way too heavily weighted towards the hospital control. And I think to some extent, there's going to be a little bit of Washington, at least they're very conscious of that. avoid it as much as possible. Because I'm more from keeping up with Medicaid stuff, which is amazing now. Hospital-centric is something that's supposed to be consolidating, community support. In terms of New York State, well, NYAPRS, I've been sort of intimately involved with NYAPRS probably 20 years, 21, 25 to that. I'll end in a minute or two tell you about my alternative view of peer support and stuff like that. That's why my heart will check out later. I think the great part about NYAPRS, and I echo Laverne, you're certainly ahead of the curve, well, way ahead of the curve, in terms of creating a community, a grassroots sort of melange of consumers and advocates and providers that had a real impact on social policy that I frankly have not seen in other states. I mean, one of the things that's impressive in Washington State is kind of question granola. It's got a very, very weak consumer. It's got a weak consumer movement. They have a lot of peer providers who know the consumer advocacy. Oregon is much more together around agitation, if you will. I think the We Can't Work campaign is amazing. One of the things I always point people to is because one of the things that's held back employment is I do not see any grassroots consumer-friendly advocacy at a strong level for it. And whether it's the housing, whether it's we're at a point which is real progress where if I'm at Hutchins, I'm not allowed, if you will, to say to a person, I can't work with you, John, because you've got schizophrenia. We're beyond that. Oh, no, we can't. Where we're not beyond is we have still 85% of the population, the adult mental health population in New York State, is unemployed. And we haven't impacted as a major social and clinical issue. And that's way behind the curve. And I think to some extent, NYAPRS reflects even more, but the fact that we had a grassroots We Can't Work campaign, Shaku and Oscar and other folks, is really important. I guess I have a slightly different view because I'm a crank than Laverne about view on progress. I think the strength and the weakness of a big state like New York is there's a big social support structure. When everything gets bogged down in this elaborate plans and going on for years and this and that, and the pace of actual change in people's lives in terms of employment is slow. I think there's been a lot of pace in people's lives in terms of peer support, in terms of community support, but in terms of employment, I think it's been really slow. One that I'll end with, when I went to the mental health center, when I became deputy director of the mental health center, I've seen this quote-unquote progressive, right? So the local funding authority said, what are you going to have a consumer advisory group? Crazy idea. I said, what I want to do is hire more people who have a history of mental illness as case managers, as therapists, or whatever, and I want to have people nominated for board of directors, and just a couple of people elected for the board of directors. That to me is real change. I think there's been way too much emphasis around the country and in New York State on employment being equated to hiring peer supporters. I think, apart from the obvious fact that not everybody can push in the history of mental illness doesn't mean your vocational goal is to be a peer supporter. I mean, that's somewhat obvious. The other issue from a system level, I think a lot of systems I know sort of scratch their employment itch by saying we have peer supporters. And my concern is we don't do enough in terms of people being hired within other places, including the mental health system, as case managers and therapists. My own view of the matter comes from my own work and research on it. I think that self-identified peer supporters are extremely powerful in terms of crisis intervention, peer bridges. Someone you can say, I've been there, I'm out of that. When you read how people view peer supporters in general in terms of community mental health, very interesting. People generally like them. Well, here are two reasons they like them. One, they say, someone will spend more time with you, which is true, but that's a function of their caseload rate. The other one, which I find depressing, but always comes up, is something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, my peer supporter was nice to me and treated me like a human being in a way the staff wasn't. And that's just impressive. Number one, you should expect that. You know, that's not a function of being a peer. That's a function of being a human being. So I think as NYAPRS and the state talks more about control and consumers here, I think we really need to get out of the only way to have meaningful relationships is to have peer-to-peer, because that's, number one, that's not being fair to people who aren't peers, and number two, that's basically letting the great majority of staff in the system off the hook. So that's kind of my opinion.
Thank you. You know, I kind of feel like after hearing Stephanie, Laverne, and Joe, that they didn't give themselves enough credit. Now I got to go back and go over their stories and explain all the things, that awesome stuff that they've done, and take the end of the day, you know. So I'll try to kind of reflect some of the priorities that we have together in our life story. You know, one thing that comes to mind right away in terms of telling you about me and, you know, in my role and my support here in New York, just my first efforts, which were coming out of a time where I tried to kill myself at 15, struggling with all kinds of issues, including drug use, health issues, and family issues, cultural issues, difficulty in school, and not really feeling safe anywhere in the world. I discovered some peer supporters in my own town. My father had approached I'm Indian, I'm born in Kuwait. My family moved to the United States via the Bronx, right? JFK to the Bronx. And then, yeah, actually, my first meal in America was on Fordham Road on the way to the apartment we were staying in. My dad stopped the cab and had a hot dog right there, you know. And then proceeded to go home. Yeah, my mom was a little upset because she didn't eat meat, but he did. But that trip to New York City and then upstate to Rochester was about getting jobs, about becoming part of the economic and community fabric, and our peer support. When we found ourselves not feeling that way at all, our peer support was a lot that was directed at. My peer support personally was about young people, and so I was in adolescent residences and residential treatment facilities and psych centers and in the Rochester area. Focused on peer support, primarily voluntarily. I wasn't getting a job that way. In fact, everyone was really kind of struggling to figure out how to keep me in school and keep me get me working, and that sort of thing. My dad started a business to give me a job. That's the way that was going. And somebody came to one of the peer support meetings from this organization in Rochester. I'd like to talk about the fall. This administrator came to the peer support meeting that happened to be in one of their residences, and she said, I wanted to talk to you about something that we're trying to do and see if you'd be willing to do it. They're trying to implement this thing called psychiatric rehabilitation out of Boston University. We wondered if you'd be interested in becoming trained in it and helping us implement it in our residential and outpatient programs. And I said, well, why are you coming to me, And they said, well, no one else wants to do it. She said everyone thinks it's way too radical. But because of the people you're able to engage and are willing to engage, we thought maybe you'd be willing to try it out. And basically, they were willing to send me out there to try it, and if it failed, nobody has to have their hands too dirty with it, right? But if it went well, then they could go ahead and do some good stuff with it. But what happened is, I ended up getting an interview for a job as a residential counselor. Like $13,000-14,000 a year salary, and just kind of see if I would be willing to try some of this stuff out. And I got trained by Boston. I was talking to Rick Forbes the other day, my first trainer out of BU. Told him that story and reminded him that I was, just coming out of some difficult times, and the promise of psychiatric rehabilitation. Somebody like me and my family to learn that not only was recovery possible, it could be expected, and that there were some real concrete ways in which we could support each other. and that there was a pathway to even reorganize these services and systems in order to make that change. It's pretty impressive to me. So there's a lot of stories around how we did that and moved forward from there. Psychiatric rotation became this incredible vehicle to explain to the rest of the system, hey, this could be an orientation flip. We know people can recover. Phil Anthony had this line where he would say, you know, if we know that the world is flat and we ask certain questions, if we finally discover that the world is round, the questions change. You know? And so the same thing happened with psychiatric rotation. We know that the course of recovery is up and not this degenerative course of illness like we had once thought. Wow, that changes the questions. The world is round. We have to change the questions we ask. And so what are some of those questions we have to change? We were already asking them in peer support, you know, who are you? Where do you want to be? What's important to you? What have you forgotten about? What hopes and dreams have you abandoned? You know, what's your culture? What's your strengths? You know, what are your interests? Those were the strengths. Those are the kind of questions we started to ask each other, and that changed things big time. Incredible things happened as a result of that. Right here in New York. That's what introduced me to the NYAPRS. In fact, that NYAPRS was actually, I want to get to the kind of the macro thing. At that very time, Sasha and I were just talking about this, you know, mid-90s now, they were starting to talk about a managed care plan at that time. It was called the special needs plan. The special needs plan, also highly contested by the hospitals. That really integrated a lot of care, including peer support, including employment, including supported education, and did it in a very flexible way. It wasn't going to pay for people to just get services and never leave, or it was going to pay for people to get outcomes, right? To be outcome-oriented, person-centered. And it got killed by the very hospitals that were threatened by the coordination, the transfer of power and money that involved. So here we are, fast forward to today, in an environment where that same, you know, those same dollars of Medicaid and the expenditures just kept going up and up and up, and every state, as Lauren pointed out, started to face the reality that New York is probably one of the first states to come out with the data, and Harvey was one of the first people to jump right on it, right, and say, look, 20% of our Medicaid expenditure is incurred by 75 to 80% of the population. They don't know how to do something with it. Where are we saying, hey, we know how to do something with it, so psychiatric rotation, person-centered practices, culturally competent and congruent care, and what else? There's support. Medicaid needs to make a difference. Employment is going to be a key factor in that solution. I was really so happy once my first board meeting as a board member of NYAPRS, I was in the mid-90s also, I zoomed with Harvey, and he asked me, how's it going? I said, you know, well, pretty good, but what are we going to do about employment? That was our first conversation. He was in the middle of writing a board report, we were interrupting him, trying to talk about, we were rooming together about that, and he said, yeah, you're right, let's do something about that. And it was more than just about adding services to the system. At the time, all we were doing was asking for more employment services. What we needed to do is contact Joe and say, hey, well, how do we make this a system shake-up? So we contacted Joe. That's what Harvey said, that you got to call Joe. And so that plan became about, from the very top, making it a government priority at the governor level, saying we're going to make employment, this unemployment rate of 85% or more, our employment rate is completely unacceptable. We're no longer going to be just kind of accepting it as collateral damage in the system. We're going to be outraged by it. The fact that we were outraged only for a few years does something. And so by the way, that unemployment rate continues. And we've added more and more services. We've added employment priorities to ACT teams. We've added employment priorities and individual placement and support, and evidence-based practice we want to see happen. I got to tell you, I'm very, very concerned about where we stand. It needs to be a priority measure, not just for an employment outcome, but part of the way in which we address the poverty in our community. And we have to look at the barriers such as our criminal justice system, lack of attention in that regard, and the level of institutional care that's still prioritized, as Stephanie pointed out right earlier. So those kinds of observations, I think, are important. So there's something that sets New York apart. Is a couple things. I want to make that point. Is that there's a few things that I've noticed. The Star Center, what we're about is a systems transformation focused on specifically consumer and family-run organizations' capacity to really be involved in that collaborative effort to
transform the system. Because the way it's going to happen, like Vern said, if you involve young people, if you involve family members, if you involve people with lived experience with the system and with the conditions that we're facing, that's going to guarantee the system's transformation if that's what happens. However, in New York, we have this huge system that is kind of taking on the opportunity of these financing opportunities, whether it's peer services or Medicaid redesign, and kind of taking it on for themselves as opposed to looking at how that share goes to the community. So now I know you're in the middle of that already. You've done a great job with that, and all of you are getting the chance to be a part of that because of the kind of leverage and work that NYAPRS continues, and all of you continue to move forward. So I hope you keep that up. In other states, the reason I say it, that sets you apart, and in other states, the reason you see some of the great things that Stephanie Laverne talked about earlier is because they don't have any system to hold them back. So there's already kind of a, in fact, the lack of trains running is what allows some of the stuff to actually be there, you know? So I work, for example, places where I support New York, New Jersey, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Texas. And out of that cut, there's some priority states that don't have certain things. So whether it's consumer voice or family voice, whether it has system transformation process, that sort of thing. So in the U.S. Virgin Islands, there's actually no consumer voice really organized yet. There's family voice got started, but there's a system transformation opportunity there because there's nothing happening, right? So they haven't necessarily built it, but they're now ready to and wanting to. Now what we want to do is have the opportunity to put the lived experience out in front of that, and really create the demand for it. Anyway, I guess I say all this because the challenge in New York, sometimes I wonder, is it greater or is it less than community? We have so many more of us involved, so many more people with so much expertise, but the system is so much bigger, right? It's so much more in charge, you know, and then the transition that you're trying to make, is it about moving that system, right? Or is it just about increasing more voice, you know, at the public level? Well, to be honest, your challenge is both. And so what that leads to is a need for something that I think all of the states have struggled with, including New York, is collaborative leadership kind of approach. And that's something we can take it on as well, which is how to actually have leadership models and planning models that are cross systems, cross silos. So one example is the Community Trauma-Informed Community Initiative, where you need education, criminal justice, mental health, addiction, you know, all the systems that are in the society working together, not just at systems, but at the community level. And ultimately, this point around that Laverne and I were making earlier around the leadership of people of color, where we are putting together a national networking call for people of color next month, October 14th. If you're interested in that, about equity and inclusion in leadership, and that's coined by Laverne. I appreciated all of her mentorship. And you know, Stephanie and Joe have done so much for me, so I just want to thank you that I've had the chance to do that. So anyway, I wanted to end over. I know you're running short on time here, Robert. So I think we have a lot going on here and a lot of opportunity and a lot to build on, but I'm concerned about whether we've really been able to do it.
So employment really took off because there was a campaign and Beacon work and that's because future. So it's your fault that it went down. Well, hang on a second.
Since employment came up a lot, I just want to bring up the youth perspective on that. That it all stems also from our graduation rates. Like if we don't impact the high school graduation rates, we'll never impact the employment rates. So, but that I didn't touch on that because that's a national problem. It's not like New York specific. Like graduation rates for young people that are identified with like serious emotional disturbance are very, very low, and that's the term. But if they're identified that way, if you look at the statistics, it's really low.
You make an interesting point because, as Chaco points out, we've got this big boat to turn around, and the boat is ruled by hospitals and other places. But the Medicaid director is an interesting item. You know about it, Stephanie? Or what you think of it? But the Medicaid director, adding one more thing to all the stuff we're trying to do, has this belief that the healthcare system has a unique opportunity to help deal with other social problems. It's got this apparently an assessment tool that predicts problems that youth are going to have later. There's some school readiness. I don't know much about it now, but they want to incentivize financially pediatricians to apply this assessment and where young people look like they're going to struggle, and they predict they're going to struggle and not graduate. They want to do an intervention. The key is what's the intervention. But anyway, that is sort of yeah. So I just want to say on behalf of New York, I'm going to speak on behalf of New York, say we're so proud and grateful to each of you for all that you've done here from New York and nationally. And the last thing I want to say is this book cracks me up. And Chaku, that's a Chaku story. The Chaku says in an earlier workshop, he's against forced treatment. And he is. He's been, against forced treatment for years. So when he's growing up, his family is not forcing him to take medicine. They're saying that you ought to do yoga. And he said, I'm not doing that. You can't force me. Forced yoga, So I just thought that was hilarious. I'll leave you on that laugh. But again, I want to thank the panel.